Thank you for joining Wars of the Roses. As we continue with Part 6, The Rishis from the Adepts in the Eastern Esoteric Tradition by Manly Palmer Hall. Part 1, The Light of the Vedas. The Rishis. The term Rishi, meaning the inspired one, is used in early Indian literature to designate the great scholars and saints through whom the mantras or sections of the Vedas were revealed to mankind. The title was observed as a mark of esteem upon many ancient scholars, and by extension to certain recent and even contemporary religious leaders. Strictly speaking, the Rishis of the East are comparable to the Adepts of the Western esoteric tradition. They are human beings belonging to the present life wave who have, by the extraordinary cultivation of their spiritual faculties and powers, become conscious instruments of the divine plan and the natural teachers of unenlightened humanity. The Rishis are said to dwell in retirement and frequently select remote places for their habitations. They have their disciples whom they instruct and are masters of the esoteric arts and sciences associated with their religious philosophy. The human Rishis, for practical purposes, must not be confused with the Rishi Prajapati, the revealers in whose keeping is the secret wisdom of Aryavata, the land of the Aryas. The word Aryan, by which it has become customary to designate the now dominant race of Europe, is from the Sanskrit Arya, meaning the holy. This was once the title of a rishi who had mastered the Aryan path of salvation. The Aryans are therefore the sanctified, or those set apart to accomplish arhatship, through the disciplines revealed by the Rishis. Esoterically, the Rishi Prajapati are equivalent to the hierarchies described by St. Paul. They are superhuman beings who bring the experiences of previous cycles of evolution to Earth humanity. These hierarchies are the patrons or elders who overshadow the esoteric schools, binding the human institutions to the cosmic scheme. It is not always clear in the Hindu writing whether the Rishi Prajapati, implying the hierarchy, or the Rishis, implying the adepts, are referred to in a particular instance. This is further complicated by the Indian philosophy which associates the human adepts with their divine prototypes. The vast pattern unfolds through the action of the hierarchy upon the system of esoteric schools formed in its likeness. The superior is forever reflected in the inferior, all things being alike in essence but different in appearance. It should also be remembered that man himself is the incarnation of a hierarchy. When Vivasvata Manu became the father of the Aryas, he was accompanied by the 7 Rishis. This mystical septenary of illuminating powers reappears in most of the old mythological systems. 7 rays of light surround and adorn the head of Brahma. In northern Buddhism, these ornaments are called the Dhyani Buddhas. These are also the 7 spirits that follow their lord, mentioned in the Egyptian funereal ritual. These spirits before the throne are the revealers, or agencies, through which deity extends the domain of his consciousness. As the white light is broken into the 7 colors when passed through a prism, so the eternal light of the Logos, first differentiated by the prismatic triad, reveals its septenary potentials. The colors bear witness to the principle of light. When this symbolism is applied to the light of wisdom, it explains the phenomenon of the Rishis. They are the 7 truths born of one truth, as this is distributed through the threefold substance of the world. When the 7 colors of wisdom are brought together and reunited, they become again pure light. This is the secret ritual of the Rishis, who by certain austerities return their colors to the purity of colorless radiance. In the Vishnu Purana, Book 3, Chapter 1, the 7 Rishis are listed with the following account. These are the 7 persons by whom, in the several Manvantaras, created beings have been protected. Because this whole world has been pervaded by the energy of the deity, he is entitled Vishnu, from the root vis to enter, or pervade. For all the gods, the Manas, the 7 Rishis, the sons of the Manas, the Indras, the sovereigns of the gods, all are but the impersonated might of Vishnu. Thus the 7 Rishis appear in each of the Manvantaras, becoming the ancient sages or advisors. In some accounts, those of each age are descended in a direct line from the original Rishis. There is a further implication that they are the continuous re-embodiments of one great line of teachers. It is mentioned in the old writings that when Vivasvata Manu created his race, the 7 Rishis did not establish lines of descent. They did not become the fathers of people. Madame Blavatsky intimated that the 7 Rishis of the hierarchy were really identical with the 7 Prajapatis, the fathers and creators of mankind, and also with the Kumaras, the first sons, the mind-born, of Brahma who refused to procreate and multiply. The Kumaras were esoterically 7 and exoterically 4 in number. Their names all signify degrees of the human intellect, for they were concerned with the development of the principle of mind, which is the distinguishing attribute of the human being. In some of the Eastern esoteric schools, the Kumaras are said to be the wave of egos who incarnated through the animal men in the closing cycles of the third root race. They explain, therefore, the account in Genesis 6:2, that the sons of God saw the daughters of men that they were fair, and they took them wives of all which they chose. This incident is expanded in the book of Enoch. The Kumaras, or virgin egos, refused to create bodies, but waited until the evolution of form produced vehicles suitable for their manifestation. The Kumaras then descended and ensouled the bodies, in this way quickening the species and causing the transition from an animal condition to a truly human state. The Kumaras brought with them the hierarchy of superhuman teachers, and through these the vast pattern of the mystery system was revealed, and suitable institutions for its dissemination on the physical plane were established. The Rishis revealed the powers of the Kumaras in the expansion of the wisdom aspect of the human ego. Thus, the several orders are easily confused. The Kumaras are further extended in their symbolism to become Kumara, the virgin warrior, sometimes referred to as the god of war. Sanat Kumara corresponds with Michael the Archangel, the secret god of Israel. Michael is the invincible virgin combatant and appears in the legendary of many peoples as the world hero. He is the dragon slayer of folklore and symbolizes co-elective humanity in its aspect of the hero's soul. He's involved in all the religious mysteries in the ritual of the dying god. Each candidate reenacts the drama of the folk hero. Thus the symbolism proves itself, and the Kumara emerges in his original meaning as the collective ego of humanity. The wisdom religion did not unfold through the primitive structure of animal humanity. It entered the human scheme of things with the descent of the Kumaric egos. The Kabbalah describes a heavenly university where Adam was instructed prior to his fall. This college of the immortals was the great school which humanity, now a compound of mental powers and animal propensities, is gradually reconstructing through the enlargement and ensoulment of its cultural institutions. The teachers who belonged to the heavenly university formed one order of Rishis, and their disciples, gathered from the human life wave, form another. Through the process of physical embodiment, the Kumaras were deprived of their conscious wisdom. They descended into darkness, and in the long, difficult process of learning to control their animal vehicles, were guarded and guided by the fathers. These fathers, in turn, selecting vehicles suitable for their purposes, overshadowed or inspired advanced types which emerged from the racial compound. These were the poet-sages who conversed with the immortals in the dawn of time and who received the instructions which were later to be organized as the scriptural writings of mankind. While it is not possible to examine in detail the opinions of the ancient Hindus concerning their initiated sages, the doctrine can be summarized with reasonable accuracy. There has always been in the world, since the rise of an order of self-conscious life, a hierarchy of adepts. This hierarchy is composed of properly initiated priest-philosophers who serve as the hands and feet of the Adept-king. The organization of the hierarchy is analogous to that of the cosmos itself, and through its initiates, the great school is distributed throughout human society like an arterial system. The primary function of the adept teachers is to initiate humanity into those sublime mysteries by which the corporeal man, cleansed of bodily limitations, may ascend to reunion with his own divine nature. This note is sounded in the closing lines of the golden verses attributed to Pythagoras. This release is possible through the mastery of the 7 esoteric arts and sciences, the keys to which were reported to be in the keeping of the King Brahman. Like the Egyptian Hierophant, who carried the keys of the kingdom, the Hindu sage is the custodian of the 7 interpretations by which the great scriptures can be unlocked. The attainment of adeptship is possible as an inalienable birthright to all human beings. The path of discipleship leads through the wise to wisdom itself. The truth seeker is, first, the disciple of some learned man, who may be himself in one of the lower grades of the hierarchy. As the student's abilities increase, he is advanced, and the cultivation of his spiritual faculties properly guided. As the body passes from infancy to childhood, from childhood to youth, and from youth to maturity, so the invisible internal man must be matured by the laws of God and in obedience to the laws of nature. The grades of discipleship represent degrees of spiritual maturity. When the internal self has been properly and sufficiently enlightened, the disciple is ready for formal initiation into the great school. As a disciple, he sees through a glass darkly. As an initiate, he sees face to face. The symbolical initiatory swastam of the state mysteries of antiquity set forth the machinery of the initiation process. The novice is tested as to character and temperament. The disciple is examined for ability and capacity. If he possesses the proper requisites, his abilities are cultivated and intensified. If he lacks the proper qualifications, he is advised to return to society and further prepare himself. The ritualistic dramas unfold the mystery of the hero's soul and are consummated by the resurrection of the dead. The new initiate is told that he is the personification of a great process constantly unfolding about him and within him. Having been initiated, he is entitled to be called twice born. He is then one of the philosophic race, symbolized in India by the Brahman, the twice born man. As an initiate, he has certain privileges and limitations. He may continue striving for adeptship. If he attains this, he passes from honorary membership in the hierarchy to active membership. Several choices are then open to him. These are paths of service, and his future career is determined by the choice which he makes. The mystic experiences the fact of the esoteric tradition in his heart. The initiate discovers it with his mind. The adept alone, however, stands in the midst of the mystery, identified with it and utterly dedicated to its release through his own perfected organism. In the several schools of Indian philosophy, the particulars are differently interpreted. All, however, acknowledge the light of the Vedas and the hierarchy of Rishis, which administers the distribution of the esoteric tradition. It is not purposeful to extend this outline to the various specific opinions as to the distribution of the esoteric schools at the present time, their locations, or the identities of their masters and disciples. About such matters there is endless controversy, and numerous sects advance dubious evidence to support their own pretensions. The truth seeker must learn discrimination, and this is gained not by depending upon the advice of others, but by the development of judgment. Suffice it to say that the Hermetic axiom, when the disciple is ready, the master is there, remains effective. The great Aryan adepts have revealed to the race all the wisdom that is necessary to bring the earnest soul to the feet of the master. It is not lack of knowledge, but the failure of dedication and the unwillingness of the human being to perform patiently the disciples of self-improvement that prevent the profane from reaching the steps of the sanctuary. The Rishis are the adepts of long ago. Dr. Buck calls them the really sublime and perfect masters. Thus, in the terms of Freemasonry, he acknowledged them as the ancient and wonderful lights of the Great Lodge. It is said that these sage saints did not die, but having completed their work for a given time, they retired into the forests to remain as meditating ascetics until the Lord calls them to further work. There is a legend that they will remain until the coming of the next avatar. Then they will rise and meet him and assemble about him, and in the depths of valleys or on the tops of mountains they will tile their lodge. These Rishis are dedicated to remain with humanity and to guard the race. During those intervals in which the Great One is in meditation, they are his servants, and they keep his house for him until he shall return. Then he will bless them and say to them, "Well done, good and faithful servants." The Adept hierarchy, with its magnificent unfoldment, was adapted to Buddhism, and from the Buddhist writings can be gained a clearer exposition of the doctrine. This will be discussed in the section devoted to the descent of the Adept tradition through Buddhism. The invisible government of the world, with its Adept-king and its circles of adepts, initiates, and disciples, supplies the ethical keynote to the Eastern way of life. To the Hindu mystic, there are no accidents in nature. Life is unfolding according to a magnificent program. The high destiny of humanity is inevitable. Disasters and tragedies belong to the world of appearances. The indestructible self within each human being is eternally growing, and the vicissitudes of mortal existence are like the trials of the mysteries, tests of courage and integrity. Nothing that is real can be destroyed. Nothing that is unreal can be preserved. Beyond what seems to be injustice, there is a power of right, ever victorious. There can be no doubts about providence, no fear of the future, no vain regrets for the past. The invisible government guards and guides, and its way is certain. Between the unseen causes difficult to understand and the visible effects equally difficult to understand is the great revelation of the Vedas. Between gods and men are the bright, shining Rishis, the teachers and the messengers of the Adept-king. They are the witnesses of the faith which is a fact. So noble a doctrine, so enlightened a conviction must bear a wonderful fruit. Those who have accepted it in their hearts and have found it reasonable in their minds can face the eternities to come with a good hope. Thank you for watching, and please don't forget to share, like, subscribe and comment, and if you can please consider donating to Wars of the Roses. Links to PayPal and Patreon are in the description. Thank you so very much. Thank you for